Latest on President Trump's
Donald
trade
Trump
war.
is back and said the money molestation will stop. Okay. Donald Trump came out and said, I'm sorry for molesting the money. I'm not going to molest it any longer. Just a little bit of diddling. Just diddling. We're going to diddle the money, but no more molestation. He's just getting yelled at again by the same libtards that he hated the last time around. And I guess he's caving. It's just, yeah, this is funny. Bro is shadowboxing and getting owned. Yeah, it's a real Baki situation. You know what I mean? You got Baki Hama getting his ass beat by his dad in his dreams, okay? This man came out and was like, I'm going to molest the money. It's me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to put my hands all over the money. The bag is mine. And in a matter of like 3 weeks, it came out that, nobody is with them. All right. Nobody is rocking with Trump. America no longer has the motion that it once had. Lo and behold, everyone's shocked, except you wouldn't be shocked if you were watching me in the process, because I kept saying that this is inevitably going to happen. He tried to go after China and say he's going to do $7 trillion. He's going to do trillions of dollars in revenue. He's going to make trillions of dollars of revenue by just like doing 400% tariffs on China or whatever, with the express purpose of trying to decouple from our largest trading partner that comprises in and of itself 30% of our trade. And lo and behold, turns out everyone is getting Chinese goods, all the goods that have components that are getting manufactured in China. So obviously you can't just do something like this without nuking global trade in its entirety. Donald Trump also obviously famously did this by attacking all of his allies first as well, Mexico and Canada, which was insane, once again, especially insane considering that he had previously written a deal with Canada and Mexico in the first tenure, the USMCA trade agreement, that he was now reneging on. And, turns out a lot of this stuff has had shockingly negative consequences for him. And he is slowly but surely unwinding. In the process, he also said he was going to fire the Fed chair. Now, we don't even know if he has the power to be able to do so. It seems like something that Congress has to do. And it turns out Trump is no longer doing money molestation. It turns out he is, he's scaling back the money molestation that he was engaging in, scaling back on the tariffs in China, even though China never called him, even though he said he wanted China to call him and China never called. But now he's saying, it's the calmer heads will prevail, he said. And now this, he said that he was going to fire Jerome Powell. And now he says he has no intention. What do you mean?
The president is backing off his threats to fire the Fed chair as his administration talks up a possible tariff deal with China. That sent markets soaring. Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce has the story. Good morning, Mary.
George, good morning. While the White House is well aware that the president's tariffs and his knocks on the Fed chair have caused turmoil in the markets, and they're trying to reassure anxious investors. The president now painting a rosy picture of these negotiations, but still not offering specifics. After his attacks on the independent chairman of the Federal Reserve spooked markets, this morning President Trump now says he has no intention of firing Jerome Powell, the Fed chair he appointed.
No, I have no
Who appointed this man, Jerome Powell? Who appointed him? What kind of stupid idiot would appoint this guy, Jerome Powell? Art of the deal. I will fire him. Just kidding. I will not fire him. He's a good guy. I like him a lot. I did a very good job appointing him last time around, believe me.
Intention of firing him. I would like to see him be a little more active in terms of his idea to lower interest rates.
A change in tune after the president blasted Powell, calling him a major loser and saying Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. But most legal experts agree the president doesn't have the authority to fire Powell, who has 1 year left in his term. Trump's attacks sending markets into a nosedive. Wall Street is heading to its worst April.
I love these photos, man.
Since the Great Depression. The International Monetary Fund now warning Trump's tariffs will slow economic growth around the world, with the U.S. taking a significant hit. The White House now trying to reassure anxious investors. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent telling investors he expects a, quote, de-escalation of the trade war with China, saying the current situation is unsustainable. But the administration is sending mixed signals about the state of talks with China.
We're going to be very nice. They're going to be very nice. And we'll see what happens. But ultimately, they have to make a deal. I think it's a process that's going to go pretty quickly.
But the Treasury Secretary telling investors something very different, acknowledging China is going to be a slog in terms of the negotiations. The president refusing to say if he's talked directly to Chinese President Xi or if negotiations are underway between the two countries. Mr. President, you said you're ultimately going to make a deal with China, but where do things stand right now? I mean, have you talked to him? The secretary said these negotiations are going to be a slog.
My relationship with President Xi is great.
So you've talked?
It's been great for a long time. We've had a very good relationship, and I think we'll make a deal with China.
Now, despite the lack of specifics, the White House's positive outlook seemed to be enough for Wall Street recovering much of its losses from Monday, George.
Mary, on another front, we have new details on the security breach by the defense secretary.
Yeah, we do. Officials tell us that the attack plans that Defense Secretary Hegseth shared with family and friends on that Signal chat came directly from the CENTCOM commander, though he used highly secure communications to share that. This is the second time that Hegseth has been accused of sharing highly sensitive military plans over Signal. The first, when a journalist was inadvertently added to the chat. Hegseth continues to deny any wrongdoing, and the president is standing by him.
President Trump setting.
I love this. Because this kind of back and forth makes the dick riding of Trump fans undeniable and impossible to argue against. If you start off the conversation with tariffs are amazing and I'm glad that he's doing it, we're going to be onshoring, baby. And then Donald Trump turns around and says no more tariffs, actually, except for China. And you say, hell yeah, actually, tariffs were kind of gay, and I'm glad that we're doing tariffs to China, but nobody else, actually. Thank God for our beautiful president. And then he says, I'm going to do tariffs. I'm going to do extra tariffs on China unless Xi Jinping calls me tomorrow. And then there's retaliatory tariffs that come from China, and everyone's like, oh, well, that's actually sick. Like, I'm glad that we're over China. Why don't you make your stuff in America? Even though I make all my stuff in China as well, it turns out everything I buy is made in China, whatever. I'm not even going to think about that. Fuck it. It's actually a period of financial instability, but that's normal market stuff. That's normal market shit. Don't worry about it. And then now he's like, okay, I lied. Actually, I'm going to lower the tariffs. I want to de-escalate with China. Come on, please call me, Xi Jinping. And these guys have to turn around and still go, oh, excellent gambit, sir. Thank God you did all of this. Thank God. Thank God Donald Trump did all of this. I mean, oh my God. We really needed this, a shock to the system for no discernible reason whatsoever. Did he accomplish any of his goals? No. Does it matter? Probably not. Not to his cult, at least. Money is fake. Donald Trump is showing that, and also showing to anyone and everyone that is in the margins that still thinks like, oh, maybe Trump's got some good ideas, that no, he is an incompetent monster. Okay? That's it.
The stage for a trade deal with China as the administration says they could scale back on some of the new tariffs soon.
What happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? What's going to happen to all of the art of the deal people? Will anyone check in on them? Will they go, is this the deal? Is this the art or is this the deal? Where is the art of the deal? You just put a gun to your mouth and say you're going to pull the trigger, and then everyone's like, yeah, do it, pussy. Who cares? And then that's it. And then you're like, just kidding.
Hurry. Mark Meredith is at the White House with details. Mark, have the conversations with China actually started? Because it sounds like things are heading that way.
Steve, Ainsley, and Brian, good morning, friends. Well, Steve,
no, the answer is no. China has not, as a matter of fact, responded to the United States of America at all. They not only did not concede to the United States of America, they actually yesterday came out with a threat against the involvement. They came out with a threat against all of the other partners of the United States of America, as they are going through their own negotiations. And part of those negotiations are decoupling, forcing them to decouple from China, right? That's what America wants. America's saying, like, you have to also put tariffs on Chinese goods. You have to also decouple your trade from China. So China came out and said, this is like getting in the pen with a tiger. It will be dangerous for the European parties involved. If you follow through on the Trump administration's belligerent demands, then you're only going to hurt yourself in the process. So not only did China not call the Trump administration yet, I do suspect that that will come eventually because they want stability. But on top of that, they also said, don't put tariffs on Chinese goods if you're a European trade partner. What are you doing? Same with Japan. Same with all of the Asian partners. Yeah. China said, we'll go ban for ban. And they have been. They have been going. So then nothing ever happens. Chuds were right. I mean, this is very much things happening moment. I don't know what you mean by this. Nothing ever happens. Chuds don't think that there would ever be a multipolar world. Under normal circumstances, America could basically enforce its wishes upon China and all of the other global trade partners like that. There would be no issue whatsoever. Do you understand? The past couple of weeks for our global trade partners has been a moment of reconsideration, if they're smart enough, of course.
The White House was asked yesterday whether or not the president's engaged in a one-on-one talk with President.
Do you think China will back down without gaining serious concessions out of this from America? I don't think they'll get a lot of concessions from America. I think China will actually concede in an effort to maintain global trade stability. That's what my suspicion is. They'll offer something. They'll offer something to Donald Trump to make it seem like he's a big boy who actually did this, who dominated little old China. That's my suspicion. And the only reason why they will do that is because they benefit from global trade working the way it currently does. I don't think China at this stage wants to be the global reserve currency. Keep coping, man. I mean, I've been right so far. I don't know why you think I'd be wrong on this assessment. I mean, it's speculation, but I think China is incredibly restrained when it comes to its foreign policy and incredibly reasonable, sometimes even reasonable to a fault, really, when it comes down to trying to maintain global order, because they have worked within the existing structure and have seen tremendous success within. Xi won't bend the knee to the paper tiger. No, it's not a real bending of the knee, dummy. It's not. I never said that. I'm saying China will make slight concessions to the Trump administration to make it feel like, so that Trump can just, stroke his ego and present a W, like, oh, we dominated China. But before that happens, and it hasn't happened yet, obviously, this period of unprecedented global trade instability and market volatility is happening because China, I think, wants to use the temper tantrum being thrown by the idiot in charge as a way to remind their global trade partners who the adults in the room actually are. I don't think that China wants, China's long-term interests do not revolve around, especially right now, becoming the global the global reserve currency, like replacing the dollar. I don't think they want to do that. I think they still have a lot more development. They want to keep developing their secondary markets, and they want to develop themselves as well. And it's not beneficial for China to become the global the global reserve currency in which trade is being conducted, because that would require, at least in the current landscape, in the way that politics works, international affairs works, in the current landscape, you need 800 military bases for that. China doesn't have 800 military bases.
President Xi of China and the White House not willing to go on the record with that, an indication that these conversations are still not happening at the most senior levels.
If you think China will make slight concessions, doesn't that mean that you think Trump holds more cards over them? No. The only reason why they will inevitably make slight concessions in an effort to make it seem like Donald Trump won this battle is because they still want... Donald Trump is saying, I have a nuke. I am going to nuke myself and the entire global marketplace. Of course, China doesn't want the entire global trade design to be nuked overnight. They stand to benefit from the way trade is conducted on the international stage. What do you mean? Yes, when you are the United States of America, putting a gun to your mouth and saying I'm going to pull the trigger is going to be quite impactful for that reason. America basically is looking at the situation in front of them. They've recognized that China is lapping us, okay? They recognize that China is far more developed. They recognize that China controls the refinement process for key resources that are necessary. Like, they have a lot of power, okay? And if you look at it like a board game, America basically recognizes that China is winning the board game. So they're saying, I'm going to literally flip the table. I'm going to flip the table right now. If you don't, as a negotiation tactic, they're saying, I'm going to flip the table if you don't meet my insane demands. But there are other players on the board game as well. And they're noticing that America is saying they want to flip the table, which will create unprecedented chaos. Nobody wants that. So now China is looking at the other players on the table and saying, you see, this guy's a asshole. He wants to blow up this goddamn game. I still want to play the game. Maybe I'll win the game in the end, but I still want to play the game. Do you want to continue playing the game, or do you want this person to flip the table and no one wins? You are admitting that Trump holds the cards. I think you guys are some of the densest I've ever encountered in my entire life. If China wanted to flip the table, they could too. That doesn't mean they hold the cards, you moron. If Trump held all the cards as the global hegemon, then China would have conceded overnight. Why has that not happened yet? Like, actually, fully conceded. Is this all the Asmongolddians that aren't getting? You don't let the bully get away? What? That's not how international relations work, man. What are you talking about? Nobody wants nukes to be launched, okay? Obviously. So you have to play you have to play this delicate tightrope when the guy controlling the global reserve currency is trying to nuke it into oblivion for no reason, for no discernible reason. It takes time. You have to solidify your relationship with your global trade partners outside of America, because many of the most important markets that still import from China are within the sphere of American influence.
Either way, all three major U.S. stock indexes are set to open sharply higher today, given some of the news the president and Treasury Secretary made within the last 24 hours, suggesting that the trade war won't last forever. As you all three know, there's been a major sell-off on Wall Street ever since the trade war began.
We're doing fine with China. We're doing fine with I think almost every country.
This is great, yeah. Breaking, Scott Bessent has said in response to Trump's tariff announcements, more than 100 countries have approached us wanting to help rebalance global trade. In response to my coming into the room with a bomb strapped to my chest, more than 100 people have approached me wanting to help keep everyone alive. That's a perfect analogy.
In response to President Trump's tariff announcements, more than 100 countries have approached us wanting to help rebalance global trade.
Like, it was already, dude, amazing. What they're stating here is that, yeah, we said we're going to f the bag for everybody. We're going to f ourselves up, and it doesn't matter because we're insane. This is a suicide cult. So, yeah, now people are coming to us and being like, please don't do that. Whatever you want, just don't do that. That would be terrifying for everyone involved. Yeah. Ironically enough, one of the famous instances of these countries coming over was Japan. Japan is a vassal state, okay? We wrote their constitution. We have so much control over Japanese affairs, okay? We, as in the United States of America. And they were one of the first countries to directly come in and bring in a trade committee to talk to the Trump administration about what their demands were. They left with no deal. And they said, in the aftermath of those trade negotiations, that Americans were so belligerent that they didn't even know what they wanted out of Japan. So what do you do with that information? That's the one country that is supposed to unconditionally offer full-throated support to the United States of America. And they're like, we want to support you, but we don't even know what you want. We want to support you, Mr. President, Mr. Trump. Okay, you are the great white hope, but we don't even know what you want. What do you do? What do you do?
These countries have responded openly and positively to the president's actions to create a more balanced international system. We are engaged in meaningful discussions and look forward to talking with others. In response to President Trump's tariff.
Yeah, he got yelled at, by the way, because CEOs warned that there would be empty shelves and mass inflation. A lot of people geared up for his tariff threats early on, and Apple was sending 5 cargo planes worth of merchandise. They literally shipped in 5 planes full of merchandise to the United States of America to at least withstand the first couple of months of Donald Trump's insane tariff until he calms down, right? And all of these guys have done the same. A lot of these companies have basically tried to make up for what kind of loss of revenue they're going to have and loss of inventory that they're going to experience once the tariffs hit, right? So there is a month and a half remaining on readily available inventory. So they had to go to Donald Trump and be like, okay, we thought you would have stopped this tariff by now, but seems like you're still pushing it. So we are here to inform you that, you got 2 months maximum until you're looking at empty shelves and massive panic by consumers.
Everybody wants to have involvement with the United States. 145% is very high, and it won't be that high. We were talking about fentanyl, where, various
I think the only thing you're not considering is that a supply shock of any kind right now, like a conflict in the Middle East started by our genocidal 51st state, would nosedive our economy. And I don't know if China / the rest of the world wants to pick up U.S. debt at the moment.
elements built it up to 145. No, it won't be anywhere near that high.
Making the corpos bleed is kind of cool, though. Yeah, except you live here. You don't live in Germany. So when the corpos are bleeding, you also don't get to purchase the things that you need. I think a lot of people fail to consider that a lot of this impact certainly will hurt rich people, but it'll hurt rich people a lot less than it hurts you. Like you won't have access to food. Well, maybe not food, because a lot of agriculture is domestic, but like things that food is packaged in. You know what I mean? Like this right here is a pack of Zyn. Okay, 3 milligram coffee flavored nicotine pouch Zyn. This is manufactured in the United States of America. Okay, I believe Philip Morris owns it. So the irony is that while this pack of Zyn is manufactured in Richmond, Virginia, the plastic that the package is in is most likely made in China. The plastic is refined in China, and the packaging is most likely made in China. Okay? Even down to the glue that holds this glossy finish sticker on top of the Zyn. You understand? In terms of the Zyn pouches, like the material that's made of the Zyn pouches, like a big part of it is imported. A lot of that is imported from China. When you cut a fuck ton of the things, like it's not like Zyn tomorrow is going to be like, all right, well, I guess we can restructure our procurement strategies and just like, you know, find a fucking plastic manufacturer, like a plastic refinement facility in the United States of America, and find a way to make these cheap ass plastic containers that the Zyns are coming in. You can't do that. Swedish Match is a Swedish company, but their casing is Chinese. I talked to my friend who works there about it. No, but these are produced in American plants, though. I'm pretty sure. Like, what people fail to consider is so much. The way that global trade is designed, like so many of the things that you think are like manufactured or assembled in the United States of America are still relying on parts, ingredients, components that are manufactured in many circumstances China. I don't know what you want me to do. It's my dad's phone, chatters. It's my dad's phone is ringing. What do you want me to do? It's just, it's how it is. How it is.
It'll come down substantially, but it won't be zero.
As Fox Business has learned, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent also said something similar to investors this week, that he expects a de-escalation with China in the near future. 2 weeks ago, the White House also pushed pause on imposing sweeping tariffs on almost every U.S. trading partner. It allowed this pause to allow negotiations to continue. So far, though, no new trade deals have been signed, and the White House says stay tuned.
I spoke to our entire trade team this morning. There is a lot of progress being made. We now have 18 proposals on paper that have been brought to the trade team. Again, these are proposals on paper that countries have proposed to the Trump administration and to our government.
The other reason we're seeing so much green on Wall Street before the opening bell is the president made the strong suggestion again that he has no plans to fire the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. Just this week, Trump suggested that Powell should have to leave his post.
What happened? I thought China also was going to inevitably cave and concede. I'm just so shocked because I trust my big, beautiful, bold, brave president. I trust my big, beautiful, bold, and brave president to do the right thing. I trust him. I trusted him this whole time. I trusted him when he said tariffs are necessary. I trusted him when he said tariffs are unnecessary. What is happening? What's going on? Are they necessary or are they unnecessary? Are they helpful? Is China coming to the table? Are they not coming to the table? What's going on? I want to trust my big, beautiful boy, but it's, he's seemingly making it harder.
Reserve Chairman, his post isn't up until May of next year. And so there was that suggestion that maybe Trump would try to push him out of the job. But Trump said last night that he no longer feels that is the case. But of course, he wants to see interest rates brought down sooner rather than later. Excuse me. Steve, Ainsley, and Brian, back to you guys.
Yeah, the markets seem to like that. So any sense that there'll be any progress made because Norway comes this week? Don't they want a trade deal too?
Well, the White House has been very clear, Brian, that they believe that everybody who's been on that hit list of the different tariffs will want to make a deal at some point. You had the vice president in India talking about trade as well and how to develop a further U.S.-Indian relationship. But in terms of actually getting these deals signed, there's a question about timing because they have to be worked out. It's not that it could just be, written on a napkin and go. There's a lot of complicated language here. And the White House has said simply that their team is working on it. But as lawmakers have been talking about, they want to see progress quickly.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark. This is great news for China. Scott Bessent was at a J.P. Morgan event in Washington, D.C., talking to investors, and he says he expects a de-escalation in the trade war between the U.S. and China. He said no one thinks that the current status quo is sustainable because right now we have the 125% reciprocal tariffs on imports from China, in addition to those 20% tariffs on Chinese goods to curb the flow of fentanyl into the United States.
So one of the things that the White House is asking from all the countries is, okay, if you want to make a deal with us, you got to make a deal with us that you're not going to deal with China. And there are a number of countries that are pushing back on that. In fact, the EU has just come back and they said they will not decouple from China. They said talks with the United States and relations with China are two distinct matters. What the president is trying to do is he's trying to get so many people and countries around China to isolate China so that he's got better negotiation, better leverage.
By the way, two things I want to show you while we're on this subject. I do want to show you this neat little graph, okay? This will be illuminating. Days since U.S. President Trump has spoken with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Inauguration Day, okay? Trump announces 10% tariffs on China, claims to have spoken to Xi recently, but the Chinese ministry doesn't confirm. Raises China tariff to 20%, 25% global tariff on steel and aluminum, which impacts Chinese steel and aluminum as well, of course. Announces China tariff hike to 54%. China tariff goes up to 104%. China tariff goes up to 125%. Clarifies he meant 145%. Says he might cut the China tariff. Bessent still says he might not cut the China tariffs. It's been 96 days. Call me Xi. Why won't she call me? She call me like you did. Whisper sweet nothings into my ear in Mandarin like you used to. I love you, Xi. I love you, Xi. First 100 days, why won't you call? Why won't you call me, Xi? He's like a sad ex. Here's the New York Times source for this graph. It remains unclear when or if the United States and China will begin to engage in talks. Mr. Trump has said he expects to speak with Xi Jinping, China's leader, but no formal conversations have been scheduled. Speaking to the reporters after his remarks, Mr. Besson dismissed speculation that Mr. Trump was considering unilaterally lowering the tariffs that he has imposed on China before any negotiations with Mr. Xi. Mr. Besson emphasized that any moves to de-escalate trade tensions would need to be mutual. Yeah, he could take a page out of Hasan book and post a hot thirst trap. That's what I'm saying. Trump needs to post meat on the timeline if he wants you to call him. That's what he needs to do. For all of the American hegemony enjoyers, this must be a really weird time. Okay? It's got to be a real weird time if you're like, America is the top dog. What the And in certain respects, it still is. But it's very strange that if America is the top dog, then why won't she call?
With China. But right now, we don't know how many countries are saying, okay, if I have to pick between one or the other, I'll go with the United States. We don't know how many.
That's what China said on Monday. They said we're going to threaten countries not to do deals with us, and it hasn't stopped Japan, hasn't stopped South Korea.
Like, he's just saying this. There is no deal that has been conducted with Japan. The Japanese Trade Committee said that there was no deal, said that they didn't even know what America wanted. Where is the deal with Japan? I guess he knows something I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe they came out with a deal. I guess they did. I don't know. Where's the deal? What? Also, Fox News is amazing because it is, if you watch Fox News every day as your primary source of news, you literally, it's not that you will know less things. It's that you will know the opposite of the truth. It's crazy. Like, they just straight up tell you the exact opposite of what is going on. Up is down, good is bad, bad is good. Just straightforwardly, it feels like I'm watching news happen in an alternative universe. It's so strange. They just assume whatever is going on is the exact opposite without even reading into it, you know? They're just going along with whatever Trump says. And making up shit that Trump isn't even saying.
Has not stopped India. Obviously, hasn't stopped India. Didn't stop it.
What this non-SJW unsimplified answer to U.S. debt from the international economic perspective in our current harmful capital's global economy? I'm confused as to what your question
Italy,
is.
who feels as though they could spearhead an EU deal. I think it's really encouraging to see things get reconfigured. But I also don't think we should show any weakness with China. This is the moment. We stare them down. We have lost a lot of market cap in doing this. Let's make sure we get what we want in this restructuring, and one of which they cannot steal intellectual property. The other thing is they can't continue to hijack and screw up our patents. They steal our products, they rename them, and then they sell them back to us. Yes. Amazon, 2/3 of all their products are China. You know, so now they're now standing up. Now they're worried about their tech center that they suppressed for so long. Now they're starting to prop up Alibaba. They rehab Jack Ma. So now they're desperate to try to get their economy going. I'd hate to think that in the end, we blinked.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe.
Oh, that's crazy. Hold on, I'm tweeting. American Patriot getting called a traitor for buying equipment direct from the source.
I've been called a traitor.
What is this? Yeah, I said, I'm tweeting, he wanted you to call him. He'd stop at nothing to get that call. He'd collapse global trade in its entirety for one phone call from Xi. Can't say I wouldn't do the same if I was in his shoes. That's right. This is actually a love story. When you think about this as a love story, where Trump is in love with Xi Jinping, like Wattpad style, in love with Xi Jinping, and just simply wants that phone call really bad, it unironically makes more sense than whatever the administration is saying. Like, think about it. Think about how senseless and how stupid This entire endeavor has been that it literally makes more sense if you think that Donald Trump is actually romantically involved with Xi Jinping and wants Xi Jinping to call him. That completely made up reality at least has a through line, a logical through line associated with it. That is how insane the actual truth of the matter is. Amazing.
I'm turning my back on my country because I decided to get some machines that make my life easier. $44,000 for an American-made ditch witch, or 15 grand for that, and that might be better. Maybe you just need some basic little stuff. $3,700, or the cheapest American one I know of is $38,000. So all you people who keep complaining that I'm a traitor because I bought Chinese equipment, I'm un-American. How could I do that to our people? How could I do that to our country? Why wouldn't I buy American? I can't afford American. I just can't. I've been called a
$5 says retaliatory tariffs from China got Trump hard. Yeah, it made him hard because it reminded him that Xi does know he exists. It's like when Ethan Klein gets excited when I tweet about him or respond to some other like insane shit that he said, and he gets like really stoked because he's like, oh, finally, he remembers me. Similar situation. Also a love story. Also an instance where someone is just like burning a lot of their social capital for no particular reason other than to get a call back. He's paying attention to me. Anyway, getting back to Xi Jinping. On U.S.'s potential tariff U-turn, China again tells Trump what is the right way to deal with China.
中方早就指出，关税战、贸易战。
Dude, everyone that's talking about how I need to meet up with Jean-Luc Mélenchon to fight fascism is being stupid. I'm not going to see him when he's here in America. I'm going to see him in France, okay? Next month, when I'm in France in like 2 weeks, I'm going to link up with him in his own home turf. Calm the down, okay? Yes, I'm going to France. I'm going to link up with Mélenchon. I'm already in contact with their team, and I'm going to link up with him in France. Oui. We have said from day one that tariffs and trade wars have no winners. Protectionism leads nowhere. And to decouple is to self-alienate. The tariff war is launched by the U.S. We have made it very clear that China does not look for a war, but neither are we afraid of it. We will fight if fight we must. Our doors are open if the U.S. wants to talk. If a negotiated solution is truly what the U.S. wants, it should stop threatening and blackmailing China and seek dialogue based on equality, respect, and mutual benefit. To keep asking for a deal while exerting extreme pressure is not the right way to deal with China and simply will not work. That's right, chatters. I know Mandarin. If you're listening, if you're audio only right now and you're like, whoa, that white boy, he just translated Mandarin in perfect English. Swag. That's right. I learned Mandarin in my free time. Okay? In the limited amount of time I have when I'm not live. What is this? Blah, yuck, Hasan mods are antisocial incels? No, we're not banning this guy. This guy is awesome. Hi, Hasan. It's incredibly disgusting what you are. No, don't ban him. You're actively doing to Ethan every day. Please consider unlocking empathy like Ian did. P.S. You have an incredibly fragile ego. Wow, you are so obsessed with Ethan. Hasan is Ethan permanently on his brain. He waited. He waited for the activation code. He created an account, followed, waited for the activation code, and he blasted off. I'm going to unban him. I think we need more dissenting voices like this one, okay?
It's very good. Every country wants to partake, even countries that have ripped us off for many, many years. China is an example, but it's not just China. European Union, they ripped us off for many, many years, and those days are over. We're going to make a lot of money for our people. We'll be able to lower taxes substantially, and we're going to be proud of ourselves. They're not going to be a laughing stock that got taken advantage of by virtually every country in the world.
We thought you said you were going up to lawn for a flag. What was going on?
We're putting up a beautiful, almost 100-foot tall American flag on this.
Sick. This is the only dude. This is so awesome. Straight up like failed state authoritarian dictatorship stuff here. All aesthetics. The only place where he has motion is when he forces Google to change the name of like Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America and like putting a big flag up. Okay. The one thing that we need to complete this is if he does a military parade. Okay. If he starts marching ICBMs down, the streets of Washington or something, which he won't be able to do because the streets will crumble. Obviously, our infrastructure cannot handle tanks and stuff like that. But that's it. That's the remaining thing. We need a military parade. We need to have a military parade that will complete the tin pot dictator nonsense. Okay, which I don't even have issues with. I kind of like parades. They're fun. And I think military parades like is cool. It's like they march and stuff and they march in unison and it looks cool. I don't know. And I also do like big statues. So I assume he's gonna do like a military parade and a big statue. Okay. Those are the last two things. Those are the last two things you need to have, like a massive, massive statue of himself. Why hasn't he thrown it yet? I thought he wanted to throw one in 2016. He can absolutely do it now. I think he will.
Side and another one on the other side, 2 flags, top of the line, and they've needed flagpoles for 200 years.
Yep, there it is.
Something I've often said,
he couldn't get any motion on the global trade panic that he caused. He's going back slowly but surely on every single thing that he's done so far, taking back the tariffs, lowering the universal tariffs, lowering the tariffs on China. China still hasn't called. Hair looking like feels like he's losing it a little bit. Okay, and regardless of all of that, even though he's doing the one-sided concessions, the FT says Trump is going to exempt car makers from tariffs on auto parts from China. Okay, the exemptions are coming; they're kicking in piece by piece. The only area where he can seemingly make change is when he puts up like a big ass flag. Cool. All right. You're just proving the MAGA communist right, LMFAO. Wait, what? What do you mean proving the MAGA communist right? Yes, Trump is a MAGA communist and not an incompetent capitalist that is actually undermining America's standing on the global stage, even though the inherent contradictions within capitalism has caused America's demise, and Donald Trump is trying to manage that decline in an incredibly incompetent way, so only accelerating the demise. No, he is not I don't genuinely believe that Trump is a secret agent of socialism. Trump administration might host a military parade. I'm very looking forward to it. Financial Times says Trump is going to exempt car makers from tariffs on auto parts from China. U.S. President Donald Trump is planning to spare car makers from some of his most onerous tariffs in another trade war climb down following intense lobbying by industry executives over recent weeks. The move would exempt car parts of the tariffs that Trump is imposing on imports from China to counter fentanyl production, as well as those levied on steel and aluminum, a destacking of the duties, according to 2 people with knowledge on the matter. Here's an analog for you. Remember when Republicans were running around saying abortion is murder, and then they actually did the Roe v. Wade thing, and then everyone was like, holy I have no more autonomy. My daughter is pregnant. She's a teenager. She needs to get an abortion. What the are we doing here? Oh my God, my neighbor died due to an ectopic pregnancy because the doctor was too afraid to perform a medical abortion on her because they didn't want to go to jail. All of a sudden, Republicans basically folded and were like, actually, abortion is murder, but like sometimes murder is good. We like murder, actually. What happened? And now you're seeing the exact same thing happen with the tariffs. I called it out from a mile away. What happened? I want to hear, I wish Asmongold was live right now because I want to hear how he would manage the situation, how he would talk about how this is actually still an incredibly competent administration. I want to know what the Asmongold fans that are in here in the chat right now watching me, what they have to say. You know, I want to know. Yeah, based. I wish. This is not necessarily about Asmongold. This is about unlocking the mindset and understanding the mindset of those who still at this stage think Trump is being super competent, think Trump is doing moves that we simply cannot comprehend. That's what I'm saying here. Where are the hogs? Hogs, chirp up, chime in. I want to know, do you feel duped? Do you feel like maybe, do you feel like you were led to assume that Trump has all of this, Trump has this brilliant technique here that was going to dramatically solve the trade deficits or whatever? Asmongold already said that if Trump concedes from tariffs, he's a loser. Well, I guess he's a loser then, huh? It's not about achieving anything. It's all about aesthetics. I want to hear from right-wingers in general that have been on board with everything that Trump has done so far, everything that Donald Trump has done thus far, right? All of the initiatives he's taken. If you felt like this was a beacon of success a couple of weeks ago, and if you felt like Trump's trade schemes that were hilariously incompetent in broad fucking daylight were actually not incompetent at all, okay? How do you read the situation now? How do you still justify what Trump is doing here? You know? They're just waiting for him to say the new thing they were thinking all along. Yeah.
don't have a flagpole per se, so we're putting one right where you saw us, and we're putting another one.
Dimpool highlighted you on a recent show. Yeah, he put me on the Thumbo as well. He's such a moron. He did the classic thing that every right winger and liberals and leftists do as well, which is like, oh, this person is not joking. He actually is being super sincere with his commentary. I know we went back and forth on this. We went back and forth on this on the timeline. I forgot last night where I dunked on him hard style. Here it is. He said, "Holy sh! Hasan literally did not know that Abrega Garcia is from El Salvador. Ha ha ha! Holy f!" Which is obviously not true. Okay, I was making fun of him for being like, he's not a Maryland man, and I was like, where is he from then? He is from Maryland. He's literally a Maryland man. So I responded to him. I said, Tim Pool thinks if you're born in El Salvador, you can never be considered a man from Maryland, even if you have a wife and kids and a career as a union worker in Maryland. You had hair at some point, but I think it's okay to call you a bald loser now, Tim. He didn't like that. He did not like that one bit. He's still going along with, he didn't know. He didn't know this guy was initially from El Salvador, actually. He didn't know. I promise you, he didn't know. He likes to be called a person with hair formerly. Where is it? I think he doubled down. Yeah, he did. Of course he did. Bro didn't know dude was from El Salvador and asked if I was implying he's from DC. Just take the L. I like that. Yeah, dude, I had no idea that he was actually originally from El Salvador. I was shocked when I found that he was getting a withholding of removal to El Salvador. I was like, why is there a withholding of removal to El Salvador for an American-born citizen? Hey, by the way, before Tim Pool's drones clip this, I'm being sarcastic. I know some of you like to behave as though, I have no capacity of engaging in sarcasm or joking, but, that's what this is. What kind of rodent is controlling him, Ratatouille style? I don't know. It was a Russian rodent before, but now it is, I assume, the rat that was in his beanie was initially a Russian one, and he swapped it out for an Israeli one now. Elon left, so comedy is illegal again. Yeah. How could a rodent control him if he has no hair? That's why he has to wear the beanie all the time, chatter. Do you not know? Do you not understand? You literally have videos. You could watch that as proof that you knew. I know, but remember, narrative is more important than the truth. Narrative is more important. His fans are not going to go and see if I've done numerous videos on the subject matter, carefully detailing all of the events and his background. Tim Pool doesn't even read an entire article to completion. What do you mean? His fans are even dumber than he is. His fans are so stupid that they think the dude who dropped out of middle school is actually someone that they should pay close attention to, that they should listen to. Think about how stupid you have to be to get your notes from Tim Pool, a guy who said Trump would win 49 states a 49 state landslide victory in 2020. That's what Tim Pool said. Tim Pool is a notoriously stupid person, like one of the dumbest guys in the right wing sphere, which is crazy because that sphere is polluted with incredibly dumb guys.
On the other side, on top of the mounds. It's going to be two beautiful poles. Paid for by Trump. They arrive in about a week or so.
As a former alt-right guy, I only ever saw under a minute of your clips ever, and I still hated you for years. Yeah, well, you're here now, and you've been here for 20 months. So obviously, you had the capacity to change. You had you at least had a little bit of curiosity at a certain point that made you go, let me go see what the this guy has to say, you know? And many people do this. This is why my haters ironically create a hater to lover pipeline in their own audiences, because when they come in here to search on their own for what the truth is, they end up realizing that, oh, these guys were just lying to me. I watched you for 8 months and still disagree with almost everything you say. Okay. I hated you from the liberal side and it was exactly the same thing. Yeah. Yeah. My haters become waiters at the table of success, and my haters become lovers at the table of learning, I guess.
Can you clarify, Mr. President, on China?
Yeah, we are going to have a fair deal with China. It's going to be fair.
Are you talking to them actively now?
Actively. Everything's active. Everybody wants to be a part of what we're doing. They know that they can't get away with it any longer, but they're still going to do fine. And we're going to have a country that you can be proud of, not a laughing stock all over the world.
Yeah. This move right here, definitely not putting us in laughing stock territory. I'm going to force China to concede on all matters trade related. Also, I'm conceding now, even though she never called me. But we are not a laughing stock of the world. We are actually, everyone is afraid of us.
The world for many years, you know, and 1913, they traded to the income tax system. We used to be all tariff, and we had no income tax, and we had the wealthiest country we've ever had proportionately. From about 1870 to 1913, it was all tariffs, and we had more money than anybody. They had committees how to spend the money. They had so much money they didn't know how to spend. Then some brilliant person said, let's go income tax. Let's let the people pay. Now, we're going to be able to substantially lower taxes when this is finished.
So, Mr. President, how does it look in the meantime? Are you
It looks good, yeah. No, it looks good.
While you're negotiating?
It looks good. We were losing anywhere from $3 to $5 billion a day. Think of it. We're losing billions of dollars a day under Biden and other presidents, frankly. But under Biden, it got really worse. China got out of control. We're losing $1 trillion a year. Trillion, not a billion, not a million, $1 trillion.